Oh, hi there. I do not care who you worship as God. I do not care if you worship. I don't care who you pray to, or if you pray. I do not care if you're Muslim or Jew, Jain, Hindu, Christian, or Buddhist. Santeria, candomblés, okay with me. You might believe in a scripture divine. You might believe in the Bible, or in words from the Quran. Elron, or me. But if your faith needs to conquer the world, if your God needs more converts, if you've been told there'll be no peace on earth as long as there are unbelievers, if you believe that you'll never be free until you're dead, cold, and buried, it's not religion. It's politics. And you've been had. You've let them make you a moron, bamboozled to worship a devil. Tricked into selling your soul. Well, if you don't know kind of where my head's at as far as religion and religious things are concerned, I haven't had this attitude. I didn't get this attitude just recently here, or since I've been involved in magic and things like that. When I was a kid, literally, when I was a kid, going to Sunday school, and I was exposed to just sort of, it wasn't wild and crazy, foaming at the mouth, evangelical kind of stuff, just Methodist gospel stories, Sunday school type stuff. I instantly knew it was bullshit. Okay, I wrote a little song. I'm not going to sing the whole song, but it was. I told my mom when I was 10 the Bible is a crock. She took me to the preacher man, boys thinking outside the box. Look here, boy, the preacher said, just stop that crazy talk. 'Cause sticks and stones will break your bones if you think outside the box. You'll fight and fail, you'll land in jail, the world will clean your clock. You'll spend eternity in hell if you think outside the box. That's pretty much a true story, okay? Let me get rid of my little guitar there. I did tell my mother in conversation that I thought the Bible pretty much was bullshit. And she was very, very concerned for my soul. And she did indeed make an appointment with the pastor and did indeed take me to his study. And she would do it later on, and a few years later, when it became very clear that I was militantly, but even at 10 years old, the pastor, he didn't quite say you'll fight and fail, you'll land in jail, but pretty much that God heard me say that. Okay. Don't say that anymore, kid, because God heard you say that. And if you don't straighten up, you will be going to hell, stuff. And that only, of course, reinforced my... You proved my point, sir. Okay. The reason I'm doing that is that later on today, actually this evening, because of international timing and stuff, I'm being interviewed, okay, concerning my novel. Okay, now I know many of you watching these morning shows are familiar with my work, my nonfiction works, okay, which are all of them except this, actually, and a screenplay and stuff, but. And are probably not interested in my attempts at fiction. And I would like very much, because I'm very proud of this effort, I really would, if you're hesitating to read this just because you don't think that you're interested in the story of Jesus in any way, shape, or form, I'm encouraging you to reconsider and get the book. Okay. You know, I plug books all the time, and this came officially out just last month, okay, back in June. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, and hope that when all this is over this morning, you'll order a 6-pack of these things. You know, you don't have to be a Christian to kind of enjoy the myth of Jesus and the gospel story. And when I mean gospel story, I mean that the storyline that's outlined in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, mostly John and, well, it's in every. It's the ones, if you're going to make an hour movie about Jesus's life, you'd have the 3 wise men showing up at his birth, and the angels, and the announcement, and all of that, and the idea that the newborn king, then you don't hear anything about him until he's 12 years old, and all of a sudden he's a Kabbalistic a Wunderkind at the temple steps, just running Kabbalistic rings around the priests and scholars, and then don't hear very much about him until all of a sudden he shows up as as a wise, holy man that can heal people. And then all of a sudden, he does this miracle at a wedding feast. He turns water into wine at a wedding feast. And then from then on, people say, you're a magic man. Now we'll listen to everything. You can do anything. Okay. Until then, he was a nobody. Just a nobody. A nobody that they've been calling the king of Jews since he was 1 day old. Something's going on here. Okay, there is something that this story was built on that was probably historically true, empirical, objective history that all of this was sort of based on. And if all you have to do is just a tiny, tiny bit of digging, in the same way as the marvelous author of the Passover plot and the mystical story of Last Temptation of Christ, which is really gorgeous, and then the permission to look at this all with a more whimsical point of view that the book Lamb provides us. Okay, I was taking a shower one day, and I don't know why I was thinking about this, but all of a sudden, when I thought about the true historical character who the myth of Christ was built around actually was, and the circumstances of why him and a whole bunch of his friends were at this wedding feast, and why he would turn this wine or water into wine, all of a sudden it became really, totally, absolutely clear what happened that made everybody think that he had turned the water into wine. And from that moment on, it kicked off his campaign to overthrow the existing government and literally reclaim, supposedly, his title of King of the Jews, which they've been calling him since the day he was born. And it's funny. Okay, the whole thing is funny, but in order for me to write that story, I had to write the backstory of who Jesus was, what the circumstances, what happened, and for that I turned again just to the Gospels themselves, not to the later things, not all the crap that Paul stuck into things years after Jesus was dead, but just the gospel stories, the what were left, even though they've been tinkered with a million times. There were certain chronological events that give us enough information. So that's what this is. Okay, an accidental Christ. And the good folks at Llewellyn were bold enough and to gamble on letting Lon publish his novel, his blasphemous novel. And I don't want to disappoint Llewellyn. I don't want to disappoint anybody. I want you to buy this book and read it. And if you don't like it, leave a horrible review. But I really would like you to at least give me the benefit of the doubt that you're going to actually enjoy this this book. And let's see, I got, okay, there's things that I cover, and I hopefully do it in a intelligent and humorous way. Joseph and Mary's noble bloodline and their unusual marriage situation. I mean, he was old enough to be her grandfather. The nobility and wealth of both Mary's family and Joseph's family. Where does it say they're poor? It doesn't. Medieval people said, oh, they're broke, they're poor. Okay. The international interest in his nativity, including the gifts from foreign diplomats, okay, embassies. The story behind the family's flight to Egypt and the missing years that followed, and why this seemingly poor working class carpenter's family needed to fear for their lives from the king, from King Herod himself. Why was the nativity of this particular kid such a threat to the government that they had to get out of town? His cousin, John the Baptist, his cousin was the son of the high priest of Israel. Okay. These are royalty. Okay. The exorcisms, the healings. What's with the walk on water? Okay. And who are the 12 disciples that we talk about, as opposed to the hundreds of other followers that followed him around? Why do we differentiate these 12 characters that are pretty much bumpkins? Okay, Saul, Peter, especially, and Andrew and James. Oh, they're like Galilean dolts. Okay, well, there were others that were more sophisticated. But then there's this huge other following, okay, 120 or 144 mentions in some place. So who are the 12 disciples? Then there's the story of the woman at the well and this idea of Mary Magdalene. Okay, now we get into the possibility of him being married, because you just didn't speak in synagogues unless you were a married guy. The raising of Lazarus, and of course his crucifixion and his resurrection and disappearance. Okay, all of that I try to cover in a way that keeps you awake while you're chewing on this. Anyway, the book is called An Accidental Christ. Okay, the story of Jesus is told by his uncle. And I'm going to leave you with just a paragraph toward the very end, where Joseph of Arimathea, who is actually Joseph of Ramtha, who was a member of the Sanhedrin, part of the plot, part of the whole attempted coup, and other conspirators were faced with the coup unraveling, and that Caiaphas, the high priest, and the involvement of Pontius Pilate's wife even. But, it gets good. It really gets good. Let's see. This is Joseph of Arimathea talking to Jesus and the conspirators. Caiaphas knows we're planning for Jesus to fulfill the prophecies and enter the holy city in triumph a few days before the feast of Passover. Word has already gone out that this is going to happen, and already a host of devotees are planning an enthusiastic welcome. Now the plot has a spy, if you will, the valet of Caiaphas himself. Our valet agent informs us that Caiaphas plans to allow this to happen so as to further incriminate our Messiah in blasphemy and sedition. He'll then wait for Passover when we're all gathered together in the holy city. He will then strike and have Jesus arrested and quickly tried and publicly executed. So, Lord Joseph, tell us, how do we prevent that from happening? Jesus asked with a smile. We don't prevent it, Joseph answered coldly. We will allow all that to happen. You will be arrested, tried, and executed. Jesus' smile faded. And then, my son, you will raise yourself from the dead. Treat yourself, okay? It's still summer. You need some summer reading. You can probably finish this book off in 4 bowel movements, okay? Until tomorrow, and I want to hear your comments on this. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Go out and raise yourself from the dead.